Hey there, I'm Stephanie Domet, and I'm an editor at Mindful Magazine and a writer for mindful.org.
And I'm Barry Boyce, founding editor of Mindful Magazine and mindful.org, and I write the regular column, Point of View.
And this is the Point of View podcast. Listen, I hope you can stay awake for this one. I need you to focus in, you know? I'm with Barry in his office at Mindful. The window's open, squeaky chair is here, and we're getting ready to talk about, are you ready for this? We're going to talk about boredom. Barry, I feel that boredom is such a rich topic for a writer and for a meditator. And you start by writing about those long afternoons of childhood. And I feel like I can summon one of those up right now. 45 years later, Mom, I'm bored. I know why boredom and thinking about it is important to me, but why was boredom on your agenda to write about?
Well, Point of View is really about looking at the intersection between life and meditation and mindfulness practice. And it is just such a common experience to practice meditation and find that you're bored. Maybe even, extremely irritatingly fingernails on the blackboard type of bored. So that was one reason to explore what the quality of boredom is in mindfulness meditation practice and why it's there, maybe, and what its value might be. But also, there's a lot being discussed and written about boredom these days because of the hyperstimulation that's emerged from all the stuff that's available to us on our devices. So people are writing about reclaiming boredom and enjoying boredom, and so I thought I would throw my hat in the ring.
So it's not generally socially acceptable for an adult to whine that classic sentence, I'm bored. But we do get bored. And you've thought a lot about this. So what is boredom made of?
Well, because I'm no expert, and except from my own contemplative study of it and a bit of reading, but it seems like, we're made of on time and off time and something in between. If we think of ourselves as beings who would be out in the wild having to survive, there's in between time when we're needing to be on the lookout. Then there's time when we're responding, moving, acting, and then there's complete downtime. I think we have trouble with that middle space. We feel like we should be doing something, we should be stimulated. We're kind of built to be stimulated or to relax from that.
Right.
And yeah.
Like I look at the chipmunks in my yard, and you're right, they're on or off. That guy is never bored.
Yeah.
He's either in fear for his life or he's asleep.
Yeah, exactly. It's that in-between space. I really wonder whether evolutionarily, when we were out in the wild, how bored did we really get?
Right.
I think boredom is a bit of an accident of having so much entertainment available. So, and I think that part of the reason it's interesting, as we'll get into, is that when we lurch toward entertaining ourselves too quickly, we step over the simple perception of where we are and what's going on.
Uh-huh. Yeah, which sometimes we want to perceive that and sometimes we really don't. And you write about some of those classic places where boredom presents itself. You had a job at a grocery store which had a In my reading of your column, almost a comically large clock as a symbol of those minutes just dragging by.
Yes, it was comically large. That clock was unbelievably big. I haven't seen a clock that big inside a building since.
Your boredom writ large. And school, of course, where the minutes never seem to end. But then you also write about encountering boredom in meditation and meditation adjacent activities, of course. And so I'm wondering how your relationship with boredom changed as you went deeper into your practice.
It somewhat came down to the simple fact of whether I was just going to quit or not.
Quit meditating?
Yeah. Because it's, and this came about from, it's okay when I would do, like a minute or a couple of minutes, but, we were talking about doing a few hours or more. It got into a level of boredom and lack of stimulation that was bordered on painful. And, I started to battle with it. Every entertainment I came up with couldn't sustain itself. Eventually it wore out.
You became bored with
I became bored with the entertainment that I'd cooked up in order to not be bored.
I believe they call that a first world problem.
Yes, definitely a first world problem. So when I got some advice to stop doing battle with it so much, it started to open up. I started to be okay with less stimulus, and it began to, and I'm not alone in meditation practitioners in experiencing this, it began to open up my awareness and perception more.
Say more about that. In what way did it open it up, and what did you find there?
That there's a lot that I wasn't noticing in the atmosphere and in myself while I raced for entertainment. So boredom was like a passageway. They're kind of a painful boredom. A lot of the pain was, fighting and, trying so desperately to be entertained. When I let go of that a little bit, I could really appreciate like a breath, like some air coming through a window more. That was sufficient, quote unquote, entertainment. That my perceptive capabilities were, reignited in a way. As a result of getting past this kind of simplistic level of boredom.
So what is that? Is that like an acknowledgement or a realization that this world is enough, or this moment is it enough?
I don't know about realization. Realization seems a little bit highfalutin, more like, I don't know what you'd say, skill or something that, I often use the example of learning to play the guitar, the violin, or the piano. The early student is so caught up in themselves, and maybe they're bored with learning, and as you keep at it, you start to notice the nuances and the subtleties that enable you to become a better player. You can detect the difference between one way of striking a key and another, and a whole range. So it's really your quality of your perception improving, not so much a realization, but maybe the realization is, wow, that's kind of cool that I can perceive at that intricate and minute a level.
Right. And so then you're able to re-engage your curiosity.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Is part of what you're doing
exactly, and your attention is, I think, also increasing.
Right.
Right. You can attend longer. I'm fascinated with things like police work, where somebody has to go on a stakeout and just sit
and pay attention.
And if you avert your attention, the thing that you're looking for may escape notice.
Right.
So we actually, I think your attentive capabilities increase.
Right. I guess you had a chance to really engage with this. You write about your archery practice. I forget what the particular kind is called that you were engaged in.
Yeah, it's called Kyudo, which is sometimes called Zen archery, but it's really just a Japanese practice of archery, where, by the way, that's sad. I wish I were still doing it. It's one of those activities and passions that fell by the wayside for one reason or another. But while I was doing it, it was incredibly engaging, and I wouldn't say I got good at it, but I learned a lot. And in that form of archery practice, you start out, there's like almost no attention to the target.
What are you paying attention to then?
So you are paying attention to the form of how you're holding your body and the bow and the bowstring, and then you just shoot into a bale of hay
Right.
without a target on it.
Right.
And it's only like 6 or 8 feet away from you.
Not a huge challenge. I'm
No.
so outcome oriented that this is completely freaking me out.
Yeah. Well, and quite often when you're learning, so you will go through these coordinations. I think there are 7 of them where you end up finally releasing the bowstring, and so you could be about to release the bowstring, and then the arrow just falls out and goes on the ground.
Right.
But the instruction is to complete the whole thing anyway. So you just shoot this empty bow, and then you have to sheepishly pick up the arrow and start all over again. So in that context, one of the teachers said, things really get interesting, and the practice really starts when you're getting bored, when it starts to get boring. And what that was really about is that any fascination with I'm doing archery and this is going to be cool, and that starts to go away, and you really start to notice in the more minute perceptual way that I was talking about, how am I actually gripping this? And you would notice things like, man, I'm really gripping this bow a lot harder than I need to. And you're doing that because it's a certain kind of insecurity and fear. If I grip it harder, it's going to work better.
Right. I'm going to be better.
Yeah, I'm going to be better. I'm going to control this. And my Japanese teacher, he talked about perceiving in holding the bow where each of the fingers was and what degree of pressure they were applying. And as I started to try to perceive this, I realized that, man, down at the end of my arm is just like a ham hook.
Right.
It's like, I don't have this level of perception of the individual fingers and
deftness,
knuckles he's talking about.
Yeah.
So that let me in on past the boredom and the obsession with being entertained. There was a level of perception possible because this teacher embodied that kind of perception.
Right.
He knew where every sinew in his body was and what was happening. And not in any obsessive kind of way.
Right.
It's just, that was how he was trained. So anyway, that was a very wonderful meditative, because it was archery as meditation practice.
And it wasn't really about hitting the target.
Not ultimately, although
if you did all the things, I bet you did hit the target.
As people progress and do that practice more, there are targets, and they even take it as far as that there's a target that's way far away, and even at some level you do it on horseback and all this kind of stuff. I never got that far, but certainly the point of the beginning meditative aspect of that practice is to not be focused on getting anywhere so much. Be focused on where you are and what's happening with your hands and, in this case, the tool that you have in your hands.
It's such a perfect metaphor for what we're talking about, because I think, that being in boredom, in a state of boredom, and the itchy feeling of trying to get out of that is, and you write about this too, it's about not wanting to be where you are and being actually kind of desperate to not be where you are, or maybe what you are. And that feels like there's something intrinsic there about being a person and trying to pay attention.
People talk nowadays about preserving this great gift we have of attention and not having it robbed so easily by the merchants of distraction.
Yeah.
It's a great gift that we have.
And you can, I used to have a kind of a high-powered job as a daily journalist where I was really rewarded for being able to fracture my attention. And then when I stopped doing that and I turned my attention back to writing in a deep way, trying to write long fiction, I realized that my attention span was broken. And because I, was always rewarded for being able to turn on a dime. And so I had to work with, I worked with a little timer and a little reward system and, some self-compassion to try to rebuild that attention span that had taken me through, those long childhood afternoons, which were great for me as a writer. That was when my imagination and I really became kind of firm friends. We didn't have cable television. It seemed like it was always raining. Definitely before the time of smartphones. You can only play sorry so many times with your brothers before you truly are sorry. And we do really try to run from boredom, but it can be such a good teacher and a facilitator, in my experience, and probably yours too, of things like art.
Yeah, definitely. I think that word span and attention span is pretty cool if we think about it. I think that's a great story of you working to regain your attention span, so to speak. And, we think of attention span, unfortunately, in this kind of punitive way because of teachers wanting us to increase our attention span and, being punished, so to speak, for not having enough attention span. But the notion of spanning a broader field of time and vision and space is a good one. That it feels good to have more space.
Yeah.
Although on the way there, you get the bends.
There's some kicking and screaming in my experience.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say that. But I think that's what we're talking about, and enjoying that longer span.
Yeah, just finding what's waiting in there. What might we observe if we can do this? If we can sit with boredom, just be with it.
Yeah, I think we can get to know our impulses and be able to be curious and explore and question our degree to which we're addicted to filling up space, and rather than letting ourselves be filled up by space, to dance with that a bit. And to, when we start to fight the boredom, see if we can declare a truce and just be with things a little longer and see what happens.
So the next time I'm sitting and I'm thinking, nope, what do? Give me something practical.
Boycott that.
Boycott the nope?
Yep.
Okay.
And then when it comes up again, boycott it again. Like, okay. It takes a certain, it's interesting about meditation and effort. to the extent that you have this really kind of hard pushing effort, it doesn't work. You push too hard. On the other hand, a little bit of effort is needed of a particular kind. And it's that effort to say no in a way, to say no to the part of you that's resisting. Because, you've set a time, and this, by the way, is a very important, practical, tactical, important thing. For formal meditation practice, it's good to set a time. Okay, I'm going to do this for 15 minutes, rather than, so then you don't have to go into okay, I'm bored, I'm going to quit now, or...
And you find out it was 90 seconds.
Yeah. So, the little bit of effort is the effort to boycott that.
Okay.
And as it comes up again, you boycott it again. And then if you have a whole thought pattern about why does this keep happening, you boycott that.
Right. No narratives about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just because you're always going to find that as you keep, boycotting those instincts, there's something that lies there beneath that is relaxed and attentive already. Your basic capability of being aware.
Okay. That's under there?
That's under there, I promise.
Even for me, Barry? Even for me?
Even for, well, if it's there for me, I mean...
Yeah, we'll get to him in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because you're a parent, you've got kids, you've got grandkids. How did you talk to them about their own boredom when they were coming to you with those long afternoon whiny times?
That's a very interesting question. Going back to my own children, I might have to ask them. I think I probably simply tried to find something constructive for them to do.
Right.
I think I did a little better than go away and leave me alone. But I didn't try to educate them, so to speak, in the nature of boredom. I mean, good luck with that.
That was probably a good move on your part. Good instinct.
It's kind of BS anyway. I mean, they'll experience it. And, so I probably tried to help them along a little bit by giving them something to do or something to read. Every once in a while, I have a feeling like I ask them to do some housework or clean up the room, a classic technique.
I always found that an excellent cure for my complaints of boredom.
Yes, that's very effective. Okay, if that's the alternative, I'm doing just fine.
I will entertain myself.
Yeah, I will entertain myself. I'll find something to do.
I feel we've naturally arrived at the old mindful vulgarian and his relationship with the nature of boredom.
Well, the thing about the mindful vulgarian, my persona, alter ego, who's
Possibly
blunt
just ego.
and possibly just ego, blunt, tells it like it is. The mindful vulgarian is definitely a work in progress. Mm-hmm. On his tombstone, it will say, work in progress. The mindful vulgarian says, come on, come off it. You're the most bored person in the world. You resist boredom like the plague. How do you come off talking about the wonders of getting past boredom? So, yeah, I mean, if we're being honest here, I'm in this mess with the rest of us. But I have experienced a moment or two from time to time where I was able to drop my fight with boredom and actually wake up to where I was. Go figure.
I imagine. I always enjoy a visit with the vulgarian and with you, Barry Boyce. Thank you for this.
Thank you. It's been a blast. And stay bored.
This has been Point of View with Mindful founding editor Barry Boyce. This podcast is a production of mindful.org. If you want to talk about what you heard on the podcast or you have a question for Barry, you can email us podcasts with an S, at mindful.org. And Barry Boyce is all over mindful.org. Search his name in the search bar. There are audio practices, lots of stories, all the other episodes as well of the Point of View podcast. And I'm Stephanie Domet. Till next time, remember, when it starts getting boring, that's when it gets interesting.